Hello there, Ray here, and in today's video we will look at all 17 new farms for 1.16. There is tons of new mobs, blocks, as well as biomes, and we will be covering everything that you can farm that is new to 1.16. And everything you see behind me can be farmed up in the new Nether update. Having automated farms allows you to collect a lot of resources which are pretty tedious to get, especially in large quantities. Make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button because I've been designing unique farms for Minecraft for the last 11 years. And I have over 600 videos showing cool tricks and tips that you guys can apply to your very own survival worlds. I even have a series where I'm trying to farm up every single item in the game of Minecraft. And I have a Minecraft playlist with over 100 simple farms you guys can put into your worlds. Now with so many crazy farms that came out with just one update, I did not just design all these in the matter of a couple days. We have been working on making a farm for all these new items and mobs over the last 6 months of snapshots. And all the farms you're about to see today were designed live during my Twitch streams every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And those Twitch streams are archived. You can always go back and see exactly how we designed them up. And I have did individual videos on every single one of these farms that go into way more depth than we are in this video. So if you guys have any questions about any particular farm, make sure to check them out down in the description where there is links to the individual videos, and in those videos there is links to the worlds where you can see how to build those machines up block for block. All the farms you're about to see have been designed up for the Java edition of Minecraft. These concepts could be applied to Bedrock, but if you guys would like to learn about cool Bedrock edition farms that work for 1.16, the Nether update, make sure to check out my good friend Silent Whisper on his YouTube channel where he exclusively does the Bedrock edition. You can find his channel link in the description. Now before we take a look at all the new Nether update farms, make sure to go ahead and share this video with your favorite Minecrafters. Let them know that RaysWorks has a great video covering all the new farms so they can build them up in their very own survival world. And that is by far the best way to support the channel. I will be doing a second video where I cover new ways to farm up old stuff using 1.16 mechanics. This is where I update all my past farms to the version 1.16. And make sure to turn on your notification bell because there is quite a few changes that you don't want to miss. Let's take a look at some Hoglin farms. The first one we're going to look at is a Hoglin Farm. This is the new mob introduced in 1.16. These things are hostile mobs that will attack the player. They can spawn as adults. There's also a chance of a baby spawning as well. They are found here in another dimension and can spawn in the Crimson Forest. The reason why you want to farm up hoglins is because when they die, they produce raw pork chops as well as leather. If they die while they're on fire, they produce cooked pork chops, which is one of the best food sources in Minecraft, on par with steak. This first design here is quite simple. As you see, it's only a handful of blocks and is quite efficient, producing over 800 items per hour. So you get this much stuff just from AFK in 1 hour. This is great for single player or one person. On a multiplayer, what happens is mobs will spawn here. They will try to escape the platform with the funguses in the background, and they will end up falling into the lava. And some of you guys did mention that sometimes a baby might survive this. It's not a big deal because one baby thing down here isn't going to hold up the whole mob camp and will eventually despawn. And also the babies don't drop anything, so you're not missing out on any loot. This is definitely by far the best way to get food now in 1.16. Next, we'll take a look at the big Hoglin farm. This one here is designed to produce a ton of hoglins. Good for servers where you have a lot of members and you want to get enough food for everybody. The hoglins have a lot more area where they can spawn in, and they do spawn with hostile mob caps, so they can spawn in large amounts very quickly, and they all end up walking across and away from the fungus into this lava. By the time they get down to the bottom of this, they will die and their meat will be cooked, and you can see it just sitting here. And then what we have is a hopper minecart which is running the entire length, picking up all the items and then dropping the items off here into these chests here. This farm is extremely effective. You can see all the items that are being poured in. I just ran it for 15 minutes and it's going to come through and pick up all these items. But man, that is a lot of food as well as leather, so you can make tons of books. So in 1 hour, this thing would produce about 20,000 items per hour, which is way more than what you could ever eat, even with a huge server. And the build isn't that complex to understand either. Next up, we're going to take a look at easy ways to get ancient debris, which is used to get all the new armor, as well as tools and weapons. Plus, you can use it to make really cool netherite blocks. With this small list up here, you can easily get tons of ancient debris while being AFK, and while doing minimal amount of work. you can see all the different ancient debris blocks all got exposed with this machine. And the simple setup was shown by Techman and myself, where we can go ahead and turn it on. You can see it duplicates TNT pile up down here, and then one TNT launches the other ones out far away, and it can destroy blocks in the wall. This exposes the ancient debris, which cannot explode, so it's left just sitting here, but everything else is removed. So it's really easy to see where the ores are at, and you can easily come by and collect them. And whenever you have a bunch of them that you want to collect, you can come back up to the machine and just turn it off, just like that. There's not that much to it, some simple redstone, a little bit of limestone here. And we have some blocks here which can't be blown up that we dropped the TNT on top of. And this huge hole that you see around here was all formed by the TNT cannon. Didn't have to do any work, so you get tons of exposure with minimal amount of work. And if lava gets in your way, you can always stop it and remove the lava and continue working on it. By moving the platform up higher, the TNT has an ability to kind of launch itself farther out. So the bigger this hole gets, the higher you want to move it. Eventually you get to a point where you don't want to get too close to the dupers. This device is also just a lot of fun to watch it launch TNT into all sorts of random directions. Finds all sorts of nooks to blow up. Now if you want something that's more of a long term, because eventually this hole will get so big that it won't be able to reach any new area, we have another system for that. Now let's go out and look at the AFK Ancient Debris Farm. So out here is a huge fly machine which allows you to farm up ancient debris while being AFK. It's really cool and uses a lot of neat mechanics. We go ahead and run this farm. We just need to update this block here, and then this will turn the machine on, and you can see it blows ahead out all the netherrack, and then this fly machine comes in and will push any ancient debris that is in the wall. So like when it comes up to one of these blocks, it will push it all the way to the very far end. This is where it will be stored for the player to be able to collect, or you can have another fly machine that collects all of this. Allows you to cover a large area without having to worry about running into problems like lava and stuff like that. Then the machine will do it all over again, blowing up some more netherrack and exposing more ancient debris, and the sweeper will come by and collect all the ancient debris and just continue this all the way until you stop the flying machine. This is definitely for people who really want to go on the extreme end of getting maybe tons of these netherite blocks to make a beacon or their base out of it, as this is a more long-term method of collecting it. There is some pros and cons while collecting ancient debris up this high. You don't have to worry about all those lava lakes like you do down below, but you do get a lot less ancient debris as they're quite scarce up here compared to down below. But you can actually find them this high up. Next, we're taking a look at the Piglin Farm. Now, Piglins are a new mob for 1.16. They have a lot of unique properties. They're kind of like zombified Piglins, which is a new name for the pigmen. They're also retextured, but it's the same guy. That's a zombie pigman. They just call them zombified piglins now. And the actual piglin mob is sort of like the villager variation of the villager zombie. So the zombified piglins are kind of the mean guys, where the piglins are sort of the nicer guys. They're more like the villagers. They actually do a thing that's kind of like trading, but it's called bartering. You can give these guys gold, and there's a chance of them giving you a wide variety of different things. Some of them are more rare than others. If you kill these guys, they just drop XPs. They don't drop any loot. But if the piglins go over into the overworld dimension, so they go through this portal here and into the overworld, they will slowly convert over into the zombified piglin. And when these guys die, they do drop the gold as well as the rotten flesh. The way that this farm is set up so that you can collect a lot of piglins and then transport them to the overworld and have them be converted. In the past, it was possible to actually get these guys sent over to the end dimension, and in the end dimension, they wouldn't be able to be converted. But they changed it in the snapshots, so they will be converted. You can't really have them leave the nether dimension without turning into a zombified piglin. Piglins can spawn in the nether waste as well as inside of the crimson forest. They spawn in very similar to the zombified piglins, so they both can spawn onto this platform here. And the piglins are scared of the soul torches, so they'll eventually run over here, try to run across, but they end up falling downwards. And once they're down here, they'll run into this portal here. This will take them over into the overworld. Now this up here, it produces around 650 piglins per hour. But because these guys are mostly only useful for bartering with, there's really no reason to kill them or even convert them and then kill them. If you do want gold, it's best to go with some of the other gold farms that I've shown in the past for 1.16. I even showed how you can make it so these guys will automatically barter stuff that comes out of your gold farm. I'll put those gold farms in the description. But keep in mind, whenever you use a farm where you send mobs over into the overworld, when they go through, these trunks will be loaded by them, and this means that if there's someone else in the overworld, like one of your buddies, or if you're on a server, that means these guys will instantly despawn because they are considered hostile. Bartering is one of the biggest things that came in the snapshot, and you can use it to farm up a lot of different items. They have changed what type of items you can farm throughout the snapshots, but these are the final ones which you can get. The most common is this end here. You can kind of see what each block is, and as we move to the left, they get more and more rare. And the rarest variations are these last four right here. If you were to give a piglin stack of golden ingots, on average, this would be the results of all those ingots. Some items are given more often, some are given in larger quantities, but on average, this is what you would get. And you can obtain all this automatically just by having a piglin near your gold farms. You can turn any gold nuggets you have into ingots and then just drop it near him, he can pick it up and trade them. If you guys like to learn more about piglin bartering, I did a whole separate video going over that. But in this world download, we'll have the up-to-date piglin trade. Next up, guys, we're going to take a look at our gas farm. This uses the new biome for 1.16, which is a Soul Sand Valley. In this biome here, ghast and skeletons are the only mobs that can spawn in this biome here. And you can see they don't spawn too frequently. This wasn't always the case. When they first introduced them, they spawned just like normal mobs. And this change affected both the ghast as well as skeletons for the Soul Sand Valley. Now in the past, they used to spawn just like other mobs, so we used to get tons of ghast and skeletons spawning biome, and we made two specific farms to take advantage of this. This one here is the gas farm. It works very slick with flying machines flying back and forth, collecting the guys, pushing them to this side where we have wither roses every so often to kill them, and then we have a cart system with hoppers to pick up the loot and put it in the chest down here. But because so many ghasts were spawning in this biome, people had a hard trouble even traversing this in survival without being completely bombarded by ghasts. And because of this, they nerfed the spawning of both ghasts as well as skeletons in this biome, so they don't spawn too abundantly. So in the full release, the ghasts are not going to spawn as much as they used to in the old design. Let's go ahead and check out the rates. I went ahead and ran this for 1 hour, and you can see we still got a decent amount of ghast tiers. About 200 there. This is quite a bit less, it's about 1/3 as much as it was in the old snapshot. As before, we got around 600 tiers per hour. You also see a similar thing with the gunpowder. We got about 370 per hour, where in the older version, we got around about 1200. So even though the rates were cut about 1/3, the guys still spawn in this amazing farm. It is set up so that only ghast will spawn in here, which is really cool. And it isn't really that difficult to build up, as getting these magma blocks are really easy to mine up, and having some type of slab isn't hard to get. And then you can always have a permanent source of ghast tiers as well as gunpowder. Because we're using the advantage of being on top of the nether ceiling, you don't have to do any type of caving or anything like that. You can get good spawns. So I still think this farm is worth building, even though it's not as good as it used to be. This next farm here has to do with the Soul Sand Valley as well. This is a skeleton only farm. They spawn here in the Soul Sand Valley, just like the ghast. We made the spawning platform so only skeletons spawn it, because it's too short for ghast to do it. But you can see it uses flying machines as well. A little bit different setup, but essentially it pushes skeletons over, falling into this magma blocks, where they die, and then their loot is picked up from the hopper minecart underneath and placed over here in the chest. Just like the ghast farm, it takes advantage of the player being able to AFK really high up, so that it doesn't have to do any spawn proofing of any of the spaces down below, and instead and take full advantage of every single spawn space inside of this farm. But just like ghast, skeletons were also nerfed in Soul Sand Valley, so they don't spawn as often. Let's go ahead and take a look at the loots, which gets put over here and sorted out. We got the bones in here. This is around 450 bones, which is quite a lot, but before they nerfed it, it was 3 times as much. Same thing for the arrows, you can see a similar amount in there. Bones are mostly the useful thing because you can turn bone meal up like trees or other different crop farms. So it is unfortunate that they decrease their spawn rates, but there still is a decent amount of bones. The nice thing about this farm is the only thing you're going to get in this thing is skeletons. So you could specifically choose to just get bones. You don't have to get any other mob loot. The build itself is fairly cheap because you can get tons of leaves with using shears, floors made out of basic blocks, and just some slabs around the edges. The flying machines themselves are pretty basic. Now it might be worth putting like the skeleton and ghast farm into one, Since their spawns are kind of decreased, maybe just having them both being collected at the same time. Because with these low amount of spawns, it's unlikely if you're at your reach of the mob cap, which was our biggest concern in the last farm. With composters and fish farms, there's a lot of other ways of getting bone meal. And I'm not a big fan of crafting, so going with like a composter is a little easier for me. I don't have to turn on, take the bones, and craft them down. But by far, skeleton farms do produce way more bone meal than most like composting farms. Next up, we're going to take a look at a new mob, which is the Strider. This is a passive mob, being the first passive mob that can naturally spawn here in the Nether dimension. These things got changed so they can actually spawn in any type of lava block that is anywhere throughout the world. But you'll most likely find them sitting here in these big lava lakes, just kind of spaced out, walking around. They are passive, so they don't attack you, but you can ride them as a player by putting a saddle on them, and then you can hop on them and control them using the new warped fungus stick. But if you want to farm them, they don't drop too much stuff. They just drop some skin, and then if they have a saddle on them, they will also drop that saddle and a little bit of XP if they're killed by the player. They don't really make a very efficient saddle farm, but we did discover in the snapshots that they can stack infinitely high, and they could actually stack up to wide level 2048, and this was actually the hard limit because the game doesn't keep track of entities above that. But these insanely rare stacking of Striders got nerfed in a couple of snapshots later. The majority of the time you'll find them just like this, but there's sometimes you can find them with a baby riding on top. Baby will eventually grow up and turn into adult, because passive mob babies do grow up. And this is about a 10% chance of finding one like this, but finding one with a zombified piglin on top is a 1 in 30 chance. And oftentimes you'll find adults on there, but you can find babies, which are another 5% more rare. So even though the Striders themselves don't offer very much when you kill them for loot, they do offer a very cool rare mob that you can try to go after. This is one of the rarest mobs you can actually obtain in the game of Minecraft. Mostly because the Strider itself is very slow at spawning in compared to hostile mobs. So getting something like a zombified villager with diamond armor can be done a lot more easily because they spawn in a lot faster, where these guys only attempt to spawn in every 20 seconds. This rare variation here is a Strider with a zombified piglin that's a baby on top. He's also left-handed. His left-handed sword is enchanted, and he also has a jack-o'-lantern head on him. This can only be obtained during the day of Halloween, meaning one day out of the year. So even though you can't get these really super tall ones, you still can get very rare variation. And we designed this farm here to try to catch really tall ones, but you could actually use this same farm to capture rare ones. The way that works is that the Striders would spawn down here, and if they were so tall, they would be detected by these tripwires. And after checking, make sure nothing was detected, we'd kill everything using TNT dupers, and then we would repeat the process. Now, if you're going for some rare variations, you would want to probably put in 2 sets of tripwires. You could detect this size while not detecting this size, because they are slightly different sizes. The farm would have to be adjusted, but the concept of the farm still works. Now there is still some wonkiness to do with the Striders. As you can see, this one here is floating, so you could be running around with a Strider that can walk on air. Next, we're going to take a look at Basalt Easy Farm as well as Basalt Flying Machines. The Basalt is a new block that you can find in the game. You can also have it be generated similar to stone. And Basalt itself looks like this. Then you can also make it into polished Basalt, which has a unique look as well. And the way that basalt generates is when lava gets in between a location where there is soul soil and blue ice, it will create a basalt block. This simple basalt farm here produces 72,000 basalt blocks per hour. And it's as simple as pushing a button, holding forward, and just breaking the basalt as it's generated by the machine. Very cool little setup, and doesn't take more than a couple minutes to build, and will produce you more basalt than you ever know what to do with. This small machine here is plenty good for the majority of people, as basalt is more of a aesthetic looking block. All the blocks that the player mines are just picked up through the blocks here using hopper minecarts and put into these chests down below. You can see it actually takes quite a few chests to keep up with this farm. So let's take a look at a basalt flying generator. This is very small. You can see that's all there is to this entire thing. You just click in here, you'd be in survival mode. And you place lava at the top of this stair here. Every time it moves forward, it's going to automatically move the player with it. And it only moves forward when the player actually generates basalt. So what's happening is the player is placing in a lava source. It's going downwards, touching the soul sand and blue ice, which is creating basalt. That's the updating machine, making it move forward. When the player moves forward, he's going to grab the lava source, which gets left behind. Then he's going to move it forward by placing it onto the stair again. And yeah, it's a really cool little nifty machine. Allows you to make these walkways through any dimension you want to. Of course, another dimension is one of the few dimensions where you can't make cobblestone generators. So it's a really cool little device. Now let's take a look at flying machines that can be made out of basalt. I've designed a lot of flying machines in the past using CobbleGen, but these flying machines can actually do all this while the player is AFK. Essentially builds you a full-fledged rail system, and you don't even have to be at your keyboard. So you ride this flying machine in this minecart, you have a lava bucket in your right hand, and you have a stack of power rails in your offhand. Then you aim against this stair here in a very precise location, and you hold right click, it's going to place down lava. And then you're placing the rails afterwards with your right hand. There is a rail duper on this thing already, so you can get more rails. And essentially this is a basalt generator that can fly. So you can generate as much basalt as you want, and you can make a continuous rail system through the nether dimension without needing any water. A pretty crazy machine, and we got all packed into a very small footprint. It's only this big as you can see, and this is the result of it. It automatically powers the rails too. Next, guys, we're taking a look at the automatic basalt farm. This is one that Activation I built. It is simple, yet it is automatic, meaning that it produces the basalt without even needing a player to mine it up. So the way that it works is we got the basalt generators right here. We're pulling the basalt out, lining it up, then pushing it forward, and then we're blowing it up with TNT from a TNT duper up there. Very similar to like that little teeny basalt farm, but we just automate it with redstone so everything pushes at the right timing. Also got switches all set up so that you can easily turn it on and off without having to worry about this thing blowing up. And you can see we got sweepers down here that sweep all the items to either end, where Hyper Minecart picks them all up and distributes them into these chests. This thing produces 144,000 basalt per hour. I have no clue what people do with so much basalt. The cool thing about this farm, as well as other farms that are tileable like this, you can just build as many as you want around you, and you can even increase this to millions of basalt per hour, which is pretty insane if you just want a lot of items. The build itself does use redstone, but it's really not that complex. We simplified it as much as possible while still keeping the rates maxed out. Now for basalt farms, they do work fastest in the nether dimension, but you could run these in the overworld, but they are quite a bit slower because lava doesn't flow as fast in the overworld. Next, we're going to take a look at the new fungus tree farms. This is where the majority of all the new blocks come into the game. You can see how many new blocks there is. You can see all these new warped variation of blocks as well as crimson. And these blocks come from 2 new fungus trees. They can grow a wide variety of different shapes. But if you put all their different heights together, this is the shape which will make. This one here is a warped variation. This one here is a crimson variation. Crimson is unique where it can also produce weeping vines inside of its trees. So they can get quite large, 27 blocks tall. And their growth comes from having their variation of fungus put on top of a Nylium block of the same variation and growing it up with bone meal. Because the stem block itself produces so many variations of blocks, it's definitely a must-have farm. But what's unique about this farm is we actually got it so that this farm can run 24/7 without even using a player and without even needing any new bone meal. This is actually a self-sustained farm, meaning everything that this farm produces can turn around and be used to produce more of it. Let's go ahead and turn this farm on, and it will automatically start producing fungus trees. Okay, we got a medium-sized one here. Automatically start destroying them and collecting all the blocks off of them. All the items from the tree are taken across these hoppers here and sorted out by this. Most important thing is, of course, the warped stem, which is the log part. And then they are put into the chest down below. Everything else, including the warped blocks as well as the shroom lights, are automatically put into a composter, which breaks them down into bone meal, which we pipe back up into the farm, so we have plenty of bone meal to use in the farm. It actually produces a little bit extra bone meal as well. Now if you want to actually keep the wart blocks or the shroom lights, you could sort them out as well. Now this farm is self-sustained, meaning that everything it produces, it can turn around and use to get more logs, and over time this thing will just keep filling up with more and more of the new fungus logs. But there's a bug that I talked about in the video where I talked about bugs that still exist in 1.16, where if this hopper fills up with items, this composter will still keep turning stuff into bone meal, but the bone meal will actually vanish. This is why some people had problems with this farm, saying that it was losing bone meal because of this bug. The bone meal was backing up because there was so much bone meal inside of this elevator. So I put in a different clock here so it could pipe all that items up into this chest. Pretty cool farm. What it does is it bone meals this Nylium down here, which has a chance of producing the small fungus. And when it does, it's able to then turn around and bone meal those small fungus into large ones. So that was a little one there, and it made a big one once it bone milled it. Kind of like a sapling and a tree. Then we have a machine that detects when the tree grows and drops TNT using TNT dupers up there to go ahead and destroy the blocks as items. And the items are collected by the hoppers that are in these waterlogged floor. I did fix a bug so that the trees no longer destroy waterlogged blocks. So we can put in this type of floor once again. And once it gets done destroying one tree, it'll go ahead and produce another tree and then start back over again. There's quite a bit of redstone to this, but we're actually designing a new version of this. It'll be the 4th version. You can check out the older versions that we produced over the last 6 months. The new version should be simplified a little bit as well. But this is definitely a must-have farm for anybody who wants to get large quantities of wood very easily. As you can put this inside of your server and it can run 24/7 without even needing a player to be nearby. Next, we're going to take a look at Magma Cube Spawner Farm. So in 1.16, they added so that Magma Cube spawners are a part of bastions. And you can actually make a Magma Cube spawner mob farm out of this. These are not too difficult to do. You can see there's not too much to this entire thing. We have the actual spawner here, which produces them. We need a lot of room since they're quite big. And we need a place for them to die. We got some wither roses here, but you can have other options. You can let them die from an iron golem if you want to, or entity cramming, or you can have them get crushed. The wither rose attracts them all to one side, so if they spawn over here, they'll move towards him, so that way you can have a killing chamber in one little area. They will get close enough so that he will hit them too, so you can always use him to kill them. Once they die, they drop magma cream, which gets picked up by the hopper minecart system underneath. It goes back and forth everywhere the magma cubes could possibly die, picking up the items and putting them all, and then putting them all inside this chest here. Now, spawner farms aren't particularly fast, but these max out about 250 magma cream per hour. But they are relatively easy to build up. As you can see, there's not much to it. And you just AFK it like any other mob spawner within 16 blocks of it, and they'll be able to spawn. Magma cream is great for making like different types of potions. You can also use it to craft magma blocks. Next, we're going to take a look at another new biome with the Nether update. This is the Basalt biome. These things are really cool looking, but they are extremely annoying to traverse. They are home to the Magma Cube. So Magma Cubes are the only mob that can spawn here, and we got another amazing farm here that takes advantage of it. This is a Magma Cream farm where we have them spawn in this little circle. They are attracted to this iron golem, which is in the center there. And then they're trying to get to them and end up walking on these wither roses, which kill them. Then all their items are collected with a hopper minecart system underneath and put into this chest over here. Now the Basalt farm never got nerfed for their mob spawning, so these guys spawn in extremely frequent. This is probably the best way to get magma cream, especially in large amounts. As this simple setup here produces 2,000 magma cream per hour, or equivalent to this much. You can make tons of magma blocks if you want to. And just like the other farms, it takes advantage of not having to do any caving or lighting up or spawn proofing. Next up, we're going to take a look at the new Nether plant farm. With the new Nether update, they came out with a lot of new vegetation for the Nether. I go ahead and turn off this, and we'll turn off the farm so I can show you guys what all the vegetation looks like. There's actually quite a variety here. You see that we have some roots here. So these are crimson roots. There's also a chance of getting the warped variation of them, which is the blue variation. You can also get nether sprouts to spawn on the nether floors. Plus you can get 2 different types of fungus. You get the warped fungus as well as the crimson fungus. And there's also a rare chance you can get the new twisting vines to grow. This is all done by bone milling the appropriate blocks. For bone milling the warped Nylium, you get a higher chance of getting the warped variation. And same goes for the crimson. You're most likely to get crimson variation. But they can alternate. If you have netherrack, you can have a chance of getting the twisting vines. Now, if you don't have dirt, you can also use soul soil. Like on ProtoSky, we don't have extra dirt, but we do have extra soul soil. You can always replace the farm with this, and it will spread stuff over onto that. It works just like dirt. The way that the farm works is similar to flower farms, where you bone mill the center, then you shift the floor, and the plants pop off. Then we have some water streams here, which will push all the items to one end. They get transported into a storage system. See all the variations of plants that we get here. We get 5 unique types. The sprouts themselves, when they get shifted, they just break, but they don't give you any item to collect. Let's go ahead and turn this back on. There's just a switch here, as well as a switch here. Turn on. And it's a fast shifting floor. You can see it's bone milling it going one direction as well as other. So it's bone milling it both when the crimson variations is above the dispenser as well as the warp variation. And you got dispenser here that's being fed by this chest here, which you put bone meal into. And every so often it will wash all the items to the end, and then it will start shifting again. And it produces 75,000 items per hour, so it's an insane amount of vegetation you'll get from this little teeny farm. And the items all get down here. If anything doesn't get sorted the first time, it just keeps going around until it does get sorted. And you do need this many item filters to keep up with all the variations of stuff. But you'll rarely ever get any twisting vines. I think I only got 10 in 1 hour. For the fungus types, these two funguses, you get around 5,000 of each per hour. And for the root types, you'll get around over 3,000 of each per hour. Now, there's not too much you can do with these blocks. Most of them are just for looks, but you can take the funguses and put them into the fungus tree farm. The vines can also be used to climb up them like ladders. The farm itself is very efficient and simple to build. There's not that much redstone, a little clock back here, and it will produce more vegetation than you'll ever know what to do with. So even though it produces 75,000 items per hour, if you take these items and you actually compost them, since all these items can be composted down, it takes about 11 of these items to make 1 bone meal. And if you turn around and put that bone meal back into the system, it wouldn't actually be self-sufficient. This whole chest was full of bone meal. In a 15-minute test, I used up all of this. Where if you would take those items that we got and compost them down, what you would end up doing is filling up a little over 31 of these slots, meaning about a little over 3 of these rows. They still have a couple rows that wouldn't be filled in, meaning that you're losing bone meal over time. So it's not self-sufficient, unfortunately. And this partly has to do with them making it so you can no longer get the nether sprouts from using a shifting floor like this. You have to actually use shears to collect this type. And since it's not produced in the farm, you just have less items to put into a composter to try to make it self-sufficient. Since I did change it so that the nether sprouts can no longer be broken off with a shifting floor and collected as items, we designed a specific farm to actually collect these guys. So this is a nether sprout farm. And it's a pretty cool one. This is a little teeny one where you put in bone meal in the back here, and then we collect all the items over here. The way it works is you turn on this clock here, and what this is going to do is going to break off any other vegetation that grows there. And then it's going to try bone meal it again and see if something grows there. Once in a while, another sprout will grow in there, and then if you're sitting right here and you're in survival, any plant that grows there, you can just break off. If you just aim like right here in the corner, and if it's big, such as a nether sprout, then you can remove it with your shears. If it's something small like a fungus block, like a little fungus, it will get pushed off by the piston. It does use durability shears, so you can give yourself more shears if you need it, but you can see we got some nether sprouts in there. You also get some other vegetation. The system back here is the chest just pointing into this dispenser, which bone meal is the bottom piece. Just like a flower farm has a chance of getting the nether vegetation on top. And if you want a system where you can AFK for longer periods of time, we came up with this one, which is really cool, where you can sit in a minecart and you can put mending on your shears. You can go back and forth. You would aim at a very particular spot, and this allows you to mine multiple nether sprouts. This allows you to be more efficient at using bone meal and getting nether sprouts. Because every bone meal can put in vegetation in a 5x5 area, and by having a larger area, you have a higher chance of getting more vegetation per bone meal. Then underneath we have a hopper minecart system, which is going around picking up all the loot on top and putting it into these chests over here. You do get quite a variety of plants and stuff. And the other part about this farm is you can constantly have your player fixing his shears by using aggro pigmen that come from this portal farm right here. So they're going to try to come over here and attack you, but they end up dropping their XPs. And if your shears is enchanted with mending, all their XPs when they come to the player are going to fix your shears. See, the durability is going up. And with the system, it's automatic, so you don't have to stop to change out shears or repair them. Just constantly does that. All thing you would have to do is come over here and place in more bone meal into the system, which you can have another farm do using like a fish farm or composter farm. It is a little more complex of a system just to get the nether sprouts, but if you want to automate your world, this is definitely the one to have. Now, out of all the new nether vegetation, there is one that we haven't yet farmed up, and that is weeping vines. So this is a weeping vine farm. It is pretty simple. What we have here is a large area for them to grow downwards. And weeping vines do generate on the crimson fungus trees. That's how you get them originally. But you can place them anywhere and they will grow quite long. And they're nice because you can climb up them and down them. You can also bone meal them to make them longer. If you're up high, you want to get down low, or if you're down low, you want to go upwards, you can use the twisting vine. So very useful in that case. And since they have fixed zero tick farms, you can't easily get these anymore. So this is the way to do it. Here we got is a small hopper clock, which when turned on, you can see the fly machine flies across. It does produce a lot of particles, but it will break off the vines and they fall downwards into the water. You can see that the fly machine consists of honey blocks, and we need those. It doesn't launch the blocks forward, and when the honey blocks come back to their side, you'll see they'll go underneath of these blocks, which will shove any items on top down into the water. Items get washed into the center, and then you want to collect them with your hopper. Currently the chest filled up. It fills up really quickly. You get tons of these vines. And you can turn around, take these vines, and put them into a composter, as all of the nether vegetation can be put into a composter and converted back into bone meal, which is great. You can use this as a type of a bone meal farm. The fly machine is very simple, and we just have some systems over here to stop it, and another system over here to just turn it around and send it back again. And by building this in the overworld, you can have access to water and use that to easily transport the items. Next farm is how to turn netherrack into Nylium, both crimson or warped variations. And that's what this little machine here does. It's very compact. You put in your netherrack into this chest here, and in this chest here, you would put your bone meal, and this chest here is where you get your output, being the Nylium. So the way it works is the player would go inside of this little chamber here, close it off. So we'll turn this on and we'll hold right click and left click, and you can see it working where we are placing in the nether rack against that block in the background. Then it's converting it to Nylium, and then we're breaking it with our pickaxe in front. Depending on your latency to the server, you can try out different pickaxes to speed up or slow it down. This allows us to turn normal netherrack into the new Nylium block, so you can have a whole bunch of it without tearing up your entire nether dimension. And there's both crimson as well as warped variations of this. We can turn this off once again. We can take a look at the output. To convert a bunch over to crimson Nylium, once in a while you get some netherrack that gets through. You can just put it back into the top chest over here. The farm is very simple and it does exactly what you need to do. They did make it now. If you want to actually get the Nylium block rather than the netherrack, you have to use silk touch. If you just use a normal pickaxe, you'll just get netherrack from it. This next farm is kind of a weird one, but it works out very nicely. You can actually turn soul campfires into soul soil. Soul soil is a new block that you can find in the nether dimension. This actually allows you to take the normal old soul sand and convert it into the new soul soil. But by using this machine here, you can actually turn something that you get from bartering with piglins, which is soul soil, you get a lot of it from bartering, and turn it into soul soil. So the way this is done is you make the new soul campfires, which are like this, using soul sand. You can get like sticks from your witch farm. You can get like the stems or any type of log from a wood farm. That makes you a soul campfire. Then if you place it on a soul campfire and break it with a fortune or something other than silk touch, you get soul soil back. So this is a conversion of soul sand into soul soil, one of the new blocks. And we made this little setup here which allows you to do this automatically. So we can sit in here and we put the campfires in our offhand, and we got our axe in our main hand. Then we can just turn on this little clock, which will give us campfires. Hold down right click. Then if we break this campfire and we hold down right click and left click, we can place and break campfires really quickly. You can see all the soul soil coming off of them and putting it into the hoppers. This allows us to turn a non-renewable resource into one that is renewable. Very cool little system. There's not much to the entire system, just some clocks and items being put into this chest down here. A wide variety of new things added in the Nether update, and it was a lot of fun spending the last 6 months designing unique farms to try to automate the process of getting all the new types of blocks and mobs in this update. Some things were a lot more challenging to farm up than others, but in the end we were successful. If you would like to look at any of these farms in more detail so you can build them up, or like to learn more about them, make sure to check out the individual videos that cover them as well as rolled downloads which are provided in those videos. Special thanks to everybody who joined our snapshot testing streams and participated in the designing up of each of these farms. Don't forget to share this video as well as leave a like on it. I would like to thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!